Discover the incredible love story. Millionaire CEO's life-changing kiss with his maid exposed. Tom Bennett, a self-made millionaire, gazed out at the sprawling lawns of his picturesque suburban neighborhood, the kind of place where white picket fences and lush gardens whispered tales of the American dream. Yet behind Tom's confident smile and tailored suits lurked an overwhelming pressure. His elite peers constantly nudged him to leave his modest roots behind, but how could he forget where he came from? It was during his quick coffee break one sunny morning that the door swung open. Maria Garcia, his hardworking maid, stepped in with a smile that lit up the room. Maria, a single mother, had a warmth that made Tom's structured world feel alive. Amid the polished silver and expensive furniture, they shared daily snippets of their contrasting lives. "Tom, how's the boardroom? I bet they're jealous of your new suit," she teased, her laughter rich with life. Tom chuckled, sometimes feeling guilty about his fortune. He admired Maria's resilience, running between part-time jobs just to give her son a better shot at life. They exchanged stories over coffee, her tales of balancing work and motherhood pierced straight through the polished veneer of his world. Her old car sat careworn in the driveway, a stark contrast to the gleaming luxury vehicles owned by Tom's friends. But as summer wore on, a sudden storm tore through their community, leaving destruction in its wake. Maria's home was damaged. Her laughter was replaced with worry. Together, they set out to organize relief efforts. Working side by side, they discovered an unexpected chemistry that transcended their differences. With every passing day, Tom was drawn closer to her fiery spirit, illuminating a longing in him for something real, a connection he had only fantasized about in his high-powered life. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Just as their friendship grew into something profound, a moment charged with energy as their hands brushed while sifting through donations, whispers began to circulate among Tom's elite social circle. The local journalist, ever hungry for a scandal, caught wind of their connection and boldly claimed it was more than a working relationship. Anxiety gripped Tom's heart. Would society allow him to love unreservedly? As days passed, the pressure mounted. No longer was it enough to merely admire Maria from afar. In a moment of vulnerability, he leaned forward and kissed her. It was a soft but transformative gesture, a deep connection that shook the very foundation of his carefully curated life. But just as warmth blossomed in his chest, the journalist's article hit the newsstands, threatening to unravel everything. Would Tom defend his reputation or dive into the messy beauty of true love? The weight of his decision hung heavy in the air, leaving his heart racing and uncertainty swirling. What lay ahead would challenge everything he thought he understood about love and class divides. As the question loomed, could he brave the storm for a chance at authentic happiness with Maria? Tom stood at the edge of his immaculate garden, his mind racing. The article lay crumpled in his hand, headlines screaming of scandal, and his heart pounded with every passing minute. He wanted nothing more than to ignore the clamor coming from his peers, the condescending whispers about a millionaire's heart being swept away by a maid. He turned back to his spacious home, but the emptiness of it felt unbearable. Maria's laughter, the very sound that brought life to his world, echoed hollowly in the distance, as if it were a memory he was desperately trying to cling to. He had pushed her away the moment he received that article, fearing the backlash that in the days following the kiss. Maria had kept her distance. He hadn't seen her at work, only the reminders of her presence lingered. An extra set of plates tucked away, the scent of her citrus-scented cleaning supplies that lingered longer than her, and the sweet words of encouragement that felt at once comforting and haunting. He took a deep breath, steadied himself, and picked up his phone, fingers hovering over her contact. The thought of reaching out to apologize felt daunting. What if she hated him? What if she was embarrassed? Yet he couldn't shake the thought of her. Those brief moments they shared felt like treasures in his otherwise golden life, and that kiss they meant something. She meant something. The phone rang, but the sound of footsteps broke his focus. He turned to see Maria, her eyes wide with surprise. The morning sun danced through the leaves, wrapping her in a glowing halo, but worry clouded her expression. She looked beautiful and fragile at the same time, standing there halfway between his world and hers. Tom, I wanted to drop off a few things. Her voice trembled slightly. It took every ounce of courage he had to step forward. Maria, wait. He stepped closer, his heart racing. I need to talk to you about what happened. Please. A flicker of uncertainty crossed her face. She nodded slowly, but her eyes reflected the hurt he had inadvertently caused. Okay, she whispered. We can talk. They settled in the living room. A stark contrast of comfort padded in silence. He looked at her, searching for the right words, but every cliché felt inadequate. I never wanted anyone to fear the truth. I didn't mean for anything to change, you kissed me. She interrupted, her voice steady but edged with a tremor. And now everyone thinks it's a scandal. Just another rich guy with a Maid story. He had no response. The truth stung, and the weight of his privilege loomed large between them. But it meant something to me, he finally said, the warmth of emotion pooling in his chest. Did it? Or are you just trying to escape the narrative? Her eyes were fierce, challenging him. The raw intensity of the moment made him swallow hard. This was real. He felt vulnerable. He didn't want to escape anything. He wanted to embrace it. I don't care what they say. I care about you. Your spirit, your strength. I've seen you do things I could only dream of. Her gaze softened just barely. But can you really see a future for us? Do you realize what you would risk? That question hung like a heavy cloud. Risking his reputation was one thing, but risking her heart, would he really have the courage to defend it, to defend her? Could he stand against the world for love? Suddenly, vulnerability coupled with determination washed over him. I would face anything for a chance with you, he declared. You showed me that love is worth the fight. At that moment, machine-like doubts turned into possibilities. Just as tension buzzed in the air, the soft chime of his phone broke the spell, signaling a message. It was from his best friend, returning speculation from the article. Tom glanced down and froze, realizing the deeper implication of the unfolding story. Maria, I think we might be too late, he said, feeling dread mixed with a strange sense of urgency. Something happening that could change everything. The storm was raging and they were at its center. Would they be swept away, or could they withstand it together? Tom's heart raced as he read the message again, its chilling implications sinking into him. The few treasures he had tucked away, his budding love for Maria. The glimmers of hope they shared seemed to scatter like leaves caught in a gust of wind. His best friend had forwarded a screenshot of the developing narrative, a tweet echoing the scandalous headline, and it was trending. What do you mean? Maria asked, worry etched across her features. It's about us, he said, glancing back at his phone as if the screen could bring him clarity. People are talking, speculating. It's getting worse. Maria shifted, her hands fidgeting on her lap. What are they saying? Just that, well, they don't just see us, he said, struggling for the right words. I mean, the article makes it sound like I swept you off your feet. Like I've put you in this position that isn't right. Her expression iced over, fear knitting her brows. That's awful, Tom. Don't you see? I'm just a maid. None of this was supposed to happen, no, he exclaimed, desperation piercing through him. You're not just a maid. I didn't kiss you out of some moment of escape. It was real, it was everything. But the world doesn't see it that way, she insisted. I knew it wouldn't take long before they started talking. The silence stretched painfully between them. Tom wanted to grasp her hands, to show her that they could confront this storm together, but doubt shadowed him. Would he have the strength? He could handle the backlash. But what about her? Every word they write, every sneer they make, it's bound to reach you, she said, voice trembling. I want to be a burden to you, Tom. I can't be a part of your reputation. That is not for you to decide. He shot back, as fire sparked within him. You have a choice. We have a choice, and I choose you. The anger in his voice hung awkwardly in the air, mixing with hurt and confusion. Maria recoiled slightly, her heart visibly wrestling with the weight of their reality. And what if I'm not what you really want? What if the idea of me is just a fantasy? I never expected any of this. Then call it what you will. But the truth is there's something here that we need to explore. He took a step closer, lowering his voice. I want to share my life with you, Maria. Whatever it takes. I will fight for us. As he looked into her eyes, he could feel the pulse of possibility flickering. But the fear didn't just reside with her. It lodged itself deep within him as well. What would their fight entail? Walking the thin line between love and ridicule? Did he have enough strength to carry both of their hearts through the disapproval of others? A knock resounded on the door. It was sharp and jarring, like a fire alarm in a quiet room. Maria's eyes darted toward the sound, dread spreading across her features. Tom, what if that's the media? What if they come for us? Tom squared his shoulders, determination flowing through him. If that's what it takes, I'm ready. With that declaration, he moved to greet the intruder, uncertainty swirling within him. As he opened the door, the cold air rushed in, a stark contrast to the warmth of his home, forcing a shiver down his spine. What now? Maria whispered, fear gripping her heart. Tom hesitated, then stepped forward, knowing whatever lay beyond this threshold would test them both. We face it together, he promised, turning back to her, his resolve solid. But when he opened the door, the camera lenses flashed, and a cacophony of shouts erupted, drowning out the silence they had fought so hard to protect. Maria's breath hitched, and Tom's blood ran cold. As the chaos began to swell around them, he realized that this moment would demand more than words. It would require action. Could love truly withstand the scrutiny and speculation? Or would it crumble under the weight of the story that had already begun to write itself? The blinding flashes filled the doorway, illuminating Tom's face with suspicion and fear. He squinted against the light, his instincts yelling at him to block Maria from being seen. The crowd outside was a surge of cameras and microphones, each intruder hunting for a piece of drama to feast on. What do we do? Maria's voice cracked, the raw edge of panic slicing through her usual calm demeanor. Tom felt like a deer caught in headlights, but he couldn't let her see his panic. We stay inside, he said, urgency lacing his words as he pulled her back, closing the door against the encroaching chaos. They stood in the dim light of the living room, deafened by the cacophony outside. The shouts of reporters echoed against the walls. Questions were thrown at them like rocks. Is it true? Did you fall in love with your maid? What do you have to say about the scandal? Tom, they're going to tear us apart. Maria cried, gripping her arms as if to pull herself together. He moved closer, taking her trembling hands in his. Listen to me, Maria. This is our moment. We cannot let them win. If we hide, it will only make things worse. But they'll never believe us. They'll twist everything we say, she said. The hurt pooling in her eyes, he stepped closer, his resolve channeling into determination. Then let us show them. Show them who we truly are. Together, taking a breath, he pivoted and opened the door once more. The flashes hit them again like a wave, but this time Tom stood tall. He felt Maria stiffen beside him, but he squeezed her hand, grounding them both. Hey, he shouted over the din. The relentless noise subsided for a brief moment, eyes locking onto him. We're not going to hide. Yes, she's my maid. Yes, we're together. This is real. Maria means everything to me. And for that brief instant the world paused. The focus shifted onto Tom's passionate declaration, and a ripple of surprise flowed through the crowd. Tom, what about your reputation? Someone called out. The truth is worth fighting for, he replied, his voice steady, his heart pounding wildly at the edges of his own courage. Is it worth jeopardizing your career? Another voice shouted. Skepticism threaded through the inquiry. Tom glanced at Maria, who stood beside him, drawing strength from his conviction. I didn't ask her to give up anything. I didn't ask for any of this. But I won't give it up easily either. Maria took a breath, and for the first time her shoulders softened. I didn't want to be a burden, she said slowly, her voice barely above a whisper but cutting through the air. I thought I couldn't belong in your world. Together we belong anywhere, he said, locking his eyes on hers, his words a shield against their doubts. This is our choice. Just as a murmur of surprise flickered through the throng, an unexpected voice pierced through the crowd. Tom, is it true you're going to throw away your upcoming deal over this? Right now, I'm choosing love, he said, feeling the doubt begin to wash away. And amidst the sea of cameras and critical eyes, Maria finally stepped forward. Caught in the urgency of the moment, she met Thomas' gaze and took a shaky breath. It's not just a story, it's our life. The room erupted again, brandishing mixed reactions. Some shouted questions, others whispered gossip. Yet among the noise, there was a hum of intrigue, a shred of admiration for their boldness. Tom tightened his grip on Maria's hand. All around them, they were creating a narrative not the one the media had written. But as they stood there, stalwarts against the storm, the emotional storm within them whispered uncertainty. Could they sustain this newfound strength against all odds? Just as the first wave of reporters surged towards them, clamoring for statements and confirmation, Tom caught sight of his best friend on the edge of the crowd, concern etched across his face. In that instant, he realized that this was only the beginning of their battle. Tom. Maria's voice was barely audible over the mayhem. What if this doesn't end well? Tom looked into her eyes, urgency thrumming in his chest. We fight, he vowed, knowing that every heartbeat led them further into uncharted territory. With their fate hanging on the edge of uncertainty, they stepped into the fray. What would the next headline say about them? Would love be enough to endure the storm? The cameras swung toward them like a flock of startled birds, ready to capture every flicker of emotion. Tom could feel the heat of the lights beating down as he nurtured his rising courage. He had opened the door, but now everything felt like it could tumble into chaos. One wrong word could fracture the fragile peace they were struggling to maintain. Tom, Maria, back off. Give them space, shouted Max, his best friend, as he pushed through the throng toward them. The noise swelled again with shouts and angry murmurs about the audacity of a love so publicly declared. Stay close, Tom murmured to Maria as he instinctively shifted, positioning himself between her and the chaos. Max was serious, his expression tight with concern. You two need to think this through. This is not just about you. He shot a glance at the crowd, at the network reporters ready for their next ratings gold. They're right, Maria said, her voice trembling but firm. What if this ruins everything? What if it puts a target on your back? Tom felt a wave of panic wash over him, but he couldn't afford to show it. Then we confront it. Together. We'll handle whatever comes, he assured her. I won't lose you, not when we just started to be us. Desperation clung to her words. But I can't. What if they dig up things from my past? Things I'm not proud of? He took her shoulders firmly, looking deep into her eyes. Whatever past you think you have doesn't matter to me. It's who you are now that counts. You're so much more than what they want to portray. The crowd let out a collective gasp, some voices whispering disbelief at the strength of their connection, while others jeered. Look at them. This is a publicity stunt. A voice from the back yelled, attempting to twist their love into something cheap. Then let us make it hard for them to spin it, Tom challenged, his heart racing again, but with excitement this time. Let us show them it's real. As if on cue, a reporter yelled, what about your career, Tom? Do you realize what you're throwing away for this? Maria blinked rapidly, tears pooling in her eyes. You shouldn't have to fight for me. Your life shouldn't be at stake. For Tom interrupted, shaking his head. No, don't say that. You are worth fighting for, and I refuse to let fear dictate what we are. With a hesitant determination, Maria nodded, knowing that this was their moment. I'm ready, but we need a plan. Max cleared his throat. First, you need a statement. We can't only let them twist your words. We have to control the narrative. The flames of panic flickered behind Maria's eyes. What would I even say? I never asked to be in the limelight. Exactly. You don't need to justify who you are. Just tell them the truth, how love knows no boundaries. No classes. Tom was practically vibrating with the need for action. So what, we're gonna just shout that love conquers all? Maria scoffed, but a tentative smile tugged at her lips. Why not? He said, feeling the crowd's energy shift slightly. Let's remind them that real love is messy, not glamorous. We're not characters in a fairy tale. This is our reality. For the first time, he noticed a long-haired journalist at the fringes of the chaos, unobtrusive but intrigued. Her pen was poised, ready to capture the unfolding drama. Tom took a breath, scanning the onlookers. Would they embrace his message or tear it apart? We can do this, he said, his voice rising above the noise now. Let us shift the focus. Come on, Maria. Just as they readied themselves to speak, the sudden shouts of a more aggressive reporter broke through the collective anticipation. But your worlds are so different. How can you reconcile that? And are you afraid of the backlash? Another shouted, eager to provoke. Tom and Maria exchanged a glance, determination galvanizing them both. This moment was more than just words. It was a challenge they would face together. Let us show them, Tom said, squeezing Maria's hand tightly. Let us make them see. But just as he stepped forward, preparing to launch into their declaration, a familiar figure emerged from the back of the crowd. It was Anita, Tom's mother, her face etched with disbelief and disappointment. Tom, what are you doing? She called out, the shock ringing in her voice, capturing everyone's attention. In that moment, as eyes turned, Tom felt the ground shift beneath him, the stakes suddenly higher than they had ever been. Could he stand tall against not just the world but the uncertainty of his own family? What would she say? Would she tear them apart with a single sentence? Tom, what are you doing? Anita's voice sliced through the murmur of the crowd, thick with disbelief. She pushed her way forward, eyes wide as she glanced between her son and Maria, a mix of concern and confusion written all over her face. Tom's heart raced. He hadn't anticipated this. Not like this. The adrenaline from the moment of resolve began to waver. Mom, please, it's not what you think. The headlights and flashes of the cameras had grown blinding, almost blurring the contours of the chaotic scene. Above the din, Tom's voice struggled to reach her. I'm finally being honest about who I am. Max moved back, sensing the fragile balance shifting as the tension thickened. Maria felt Tom's grip tighten around her hand, but uncertainty flickered in her eyes. What if she doesn't understand? Anita crossed her arms, her usually warm demeanor ice-cold. What's to understand about this? You're risking everything for someone like her? The words hung heavy in the air, the underlying implications aching with judgment. Someone like her? Tom echoed, agitation bubbling. This is Maria. She's not just a maid. She's incredible. I love her. The crowd murmured in the background, picking up this unexpected twist. Some intrigued, others sneering at the vulnerability laid bare. Maria's heart sank. She had prepared for criticism from strangers, but from Tom's mother? I'm not looking for validation, Mrs. Collins. I didn't ask for this life in the spotlight, she said, her voice steady but trembling slightly. But your son chose this. Anita's expression faltered briefly. She was momentarily taken aback, but her ego quickly kicked in. You think you know what you're doing, don't you? You're playing with fire. You don't know the dangers of this world. There was a tone of bitterness in her words, as if warning against the weight of societal expectations. Tom stepped closer to Maria, placing himself firmly between her and his mother. You think I'm gonna back down because of what people say? I can't live my life constantly worried about someone else's approval. Tom, you have everything to lose: your reputation, your career. She's not worth it. Anita shot back, desperation now evident in her tone. But Tom felt it, a resolve solidifying in the pit of his stomach. You don't get to decide that. I know who I am and who I love. Tom's throat tightened as he spoke, emotion thick in his voice. This is my life and I won't let you control it. Somewhere in the crowd, A whisper caught hold of the moment, echoing against the hurried backdrop of clicks and flashes. Look at him. Yes, choosing her. Tom turned back to Maria, his expression softening. We're doing this together. No matter how hard it gets, we can face any backlash. Promise. But just as he felt encouraged, another reporter seized the moment, eyes gleaming with excitement. What about the consequences of your bold declaration, Tom? What if this ruins your career? Tom inhaled sharply, realizing the full weight of those words. The air around him felt heavier now, mixed with fear and determination. The crowd's energy shifted again, anticipation growing almost palpable as both Tom and Maria stood side by side, ready for whatever came next. Let them talk, Maria said, her voice calmer now, defiance pulsing through her. Let us show them they can't dictate who we are. Anita's face contorted in what looked like both anger and heartbreak as she scanned the crowd witnessing the raw scene. Then, just as anticipation built to a fever pitch, a rattle of cell phones captured a new ripple of energy. Tom, what else can you say to clarify your intentions? Another reporter shouted, hammering in on their moment of vulnerability. In the silence that followed, Tom felt a swell of hope, or was it panic? He had a choice to make, but at that moment, between the noise and the piercing eyes of his mother watching from the periphery, he wondered if he was ready. He took a step forward, about to speak again, when suddenly the crowd gasped, parting. What's happening? Maria whispered, uncertainty creeping back in. Tom squinted through the lights, trying to see past the chaos, and there, moving purposefully toward them, was someone he never expected to see, an old friend from his past. Someone who could shake the very foundation of everything he believed. As the figure drew closer, Tom's heart raced. What would they reveal? What secrets would surface? Tom's breath hitched as the familiar figure emerged from the crowd, each step more jarring than the last. It was Jonathan, his childhood friend. The one person who had always been a part of his world, a world that Tom had distanced himself from in search of his own truth. Jonathan's face, once welcoming and warm, now wore a look of concern, a hint of betrayal mingling with confusion. Tom! He called, his voice cutting sharply through the buzz surrounding them. Maria's grip on Tom's hand tightened. Who is he? That's Jonathan, Tom replied, his eyes never leaving his friend's face. We grew up together. Jonathan pushed through the remnants of the crowd, forcing his way to where they stood, front and center. He looked between Tom and Maria, his expression unreadable. What's going on? You can't just stand here like this. You're making a huge mistake. Tom's heart sank further as Jonathan's words echoed the very fears he wrestled with. What do you mean? He asked, his voice wavering between defensiveness and uncertainty. This isn't just about you two, Tom. This is about your family, your career, all those doors you've worked so hard to open. Jonathan ran a hand through his hair, frustration boiling over. You don't even know what it takes to go against your family like this. I know exactly what it takes. Tom shot back, his voice rising. This is my life, John. Not theirs, not yours. Mine. Maria looked at Tom, her heart pounding. She could feel the tension between the two men. It felt like they were caught in a whirlwind, everything around them fading into a blur, as if they were the only two souls who mattered in that moment. But she's just a maid. Jonathan pressed on, desperation seeping into his voice. You could be with someone who stopped right there. Tom interrupted, his voice firm, each word deliberate. Maria isn't just anything. She is the person I choose to be with. And that's everything. Maria's heart swelled, but the weight of the situation pressed down on her. She wasn't the one who could dictate Tom's life. Tom, maybe we should talk, she began, unsure of how to navigate the escalating emotions. No. Tom's rebuttal was instant. This is it, Maria. You matter. You mean everything. He turned back to Jonathan, whose eyebrows shot up in disbelief. I refuse to hide who I am. Not anymore. The dynamic shifted as Tom boldly stepped forward, leaving the safety of Maria's side. What do you want from me, Jonathan? I'm tired of living for everyone else. If I lose everything for this, if I lose you, he gestured toward his friend, pain glimmering in his eyes. Then I guess it was never real to begin with. Jonathan opened his mouth to protest, but the words faltered, caught in the gravity of Tom's declaration. The crowd seemed to collectively hold their breath at that moment. Anita's cold fury crushed the hopeful atmosphere. You're being selfish, Tom. You think this is love? What do you know about love when you let her define you? The fire ignited again within Tom. Every ounce of frustration and resolve bubbled over as he responded. You want to talk about selfish? It's your expectations that have suffocated me for far too long. As Tom spoke, a murmur spread through the crowd, rippling like a wave. Gasps of surprise and admiration mingled with whispers of doubt, each revealing the tangled web of opinions. Just then, Jonathan pulled away slightly, a dawning realization crossing his features. You're serious, aren't you? You're really doing this? Tom nodded, a weight lifting slightly from his shoulders. If I don't fight for my own happiness, then what's the point? Silence enveloped them, punctuated only by the clicking cameras and the rustle of reporters shifting to capture the moment. Maria took a step closer to Tom, her heart racing as she glanced up at him. Are you sure? She whispered, her voice barely audible against the backdrop of chaos. Tom looked into her eyes, determination burning brighter than ever. With you, I'm sure. But I also have a choice to make. Suddenly, Jonathan stepped back, adopting a softer tone. Then be prepared for what's to come next. This isn't just going to blow over. Thomas' heart raced again. This time not from fear but from the weight of possibilities that lay ahead. What would Anita do? How would this affect his life, his career, everything he had worked for? In the silence that followed, he felt the heavy burden of choice hovering above them, ready to unleash a storm neither of them could predict. But then, from the floor of shock, a single question rang clear through the air. So, Tom, are you ready to stand by her come what may? Even if it costs you everything? As all eyes turned toward him, Tom felt the air crackle with anticipation. The moment was chaotic, wild, but for the first time, it felt right. Would he take the leap? Would he risk it all for love? The tension thickened like fog, wrapping around them as Tom's heart raced. The world faded into a blur, and all he could focus on was the weight of that single question hanging in the air. Even if it costs you everything? Tom repeated, his voice steady but shaking just the same. The weight of his family's expectations crashed down on him. Everything they had invested in his future, now seemingly poised to slip away. But Maria stood there, her eyes mirroring his turmoil. She was a part of his world now, a world he was finally ready to embrace. For a moment, the crowd held its breath, as if they were a single organism, caught in the stakes of Tom's impending choice. The cameras zoomed in, the flashlights flickering like fireflies in the night. I am ready, he finally declared, the words spilling from him like confetti. Startling yet beautiful. Jonathan's jaw dropped. Tom, you can't be serious. You think you can just throw it all away? You'll lose everything, the career, the respect. The heat of Jonathan's voice stung, but it paled in comparison to the fire burning in Tom's chest. And what's the point of that respect if I'm not happy? If I can't be myself? He turned to Jonathan, desperation swirling in his tone. Brother, don't you get it? This isn't just about me, and it's not just about Maria either. This is about breaking free, fighting for what I believe is right. Jonathan shook his head, disbelief etched on his face. You're not thinking clearly. People will talk. Your family will disown you. Let them talk. Tom shouted back, each word escaping him like a wave of liberation. I spent too long living by their rules. It's time I define my own life. The crowd began to murmur again, emotions rippling around them. Some were nodding in encouragement. Others looked outright shocked. Tom could sense the pivoting of opinions, realization dawning in the faces around him. He felt the simmering tension transform into something like hope, or maybe rebellion. Maria moved closer, her presence grounding him. Are you sure, Tom? She whispered, a mixture of hope and fear in her voice. He nodded, locking his gaze with hers. I'm sure. With you I feel alive. This is my truth. A shaky breath escaped him, underscoring the enormity of his decision. Then, as if a dam had broken, fury ignited in Anita's eyes. "You're throwing everything away for this? For a fleeting impulse?" Tom felt the full force of 1,000 eyes on him, waiting for a response, a championing moment that would solidify his path. He inhaled sharply and squared his shoulders. No, not a fleeting impulse. A lifelong connection. A choice that could redefine everything. The crowd exploded into murmurs, a mix of support and dissent roiling about. "Then let us see what you're made of," Jonathan challenged, a steely resolve cutting through his concern. Tom felt the pulse of his heart like thunder in his chest. "I will face whatever comes. It's time for people to see me for who I truly am." Around them, conversations escalated, a buzz of intrigue soaring. "What happens next?" A voice rang out from the back, as if puncturing through the chaos. Tom glanced back at Jonathan, the childhood bond emerging like ghosts of the past. "If you're not with me, then you need to step aside." Jonathan flinched, but then his expression softened. "I guess we'll find out what you're made of." With that, Tom felt a gust of clarity. This was his chance to redefine not only his life but also the lives of everyone watching. But as cameras flashed and voices reverberated, another voice piped up from the distance. "And what will it cost you, Tom?" The echo of that question lingered as Tom stepped forward, closing in on a storm that was ready to break or build to something transformative. What lay ahead? Would he be able to withstand the storm, or would the very foundations of his life come tumbling down? The air hummed with tension as Tom stepped forward, his heart pounding like a drum. He could feel eyes boring into him, each face a reflection of varying beliefs about his decision. Some faces wore frowns of disappointment. Others appeared shimmering with curiosity and hope. Maria reached for his hand, her warmth steadying him. "Promise me you won't regret this," she whispered, her voice trembling with both fear and faith. "I promise," he replied, though doubt flashed through him like lightning. As confident as he wanted to be, the uncertainty loomed large. What if the world they knew shattered under the weight of his truth? The crowd's murmurs grew louder, crackling with energy. He couldn't shake the feeling that change was in the air. He felt alive yet terrified. Every heartbeat echoed like a countdown to the unknown. "Okay," a voice called out, announcing themselves from the front of the crowd. It was Anita, glaring with a fierce intensity that made Tom's throat tighten. "Let us hear it, Tom. What's this really about?" A challenge. The gauntlet had been thrown. Tom met her gaze, standing tall. "I'm talking about living my truth, not just what's expected of me," he replied, remembering the countless nights of internal struggle. Each whispered expectation felt suffocating. It's about embracing love, about challenging the status quo. It's about fighting for happiness, no matter what others say. The faces around him flickered with emotion. Some nodded, others recoiled. It was a dizzying array of human reactions, and he felt caught in a kaleidoscope of fear and excitement. "Yeah, that all sounds great, Tom," Jonathan interjected, stepping forward. "But what happens when the spotlight fades? When the world stops watching? Will you still be able to face your choices?" A heavy silence fell. He could sense the enormity of the question hanging over them. What if everything they built together crumbled amid the din of public opinion? What would that cost him? Tom's mind raced. The answer wasn't simple, but he felt a fire rising within him, igniting something he had kept buried for too long. "I'd rather stand firm in my truth than cower in shadows," he responded, the words spilling out raw and unfiltered. "I won't let fear dictate my life." Suddenly, his phone buzzed violently in his pocket, a harsh reminder of reality. Tom pulled it out, glancing at the notifications piling up. The hastily written messages were flooding in friends, family, the finger-wagging of old acquaintances. "People are talking," Jonathan said, a hint of urgency threading through his tone. "You can't just ignore it. This is bigger than you think." But Tom was no longer willing to stumble back into the dark corners of doubt. "They can think whatever they want," he shouted, the determination in his voice rising like steam. "This is my life to live, my choice to make. A smattering of applause erupted from a corner of the throng, echoing through the tension. Maria squeezed his hand tighter, a radiant smile breaking through her initial worry. Some cheered, while others continued to scowl, but he embraced the chaos surrounding them. Tom's resolve boiled over, igniting something deeper within him. I want to hide who I am. No longer will I be a puppet on strings. I will show the world what love truly means, no matter the cost. The crowd reacted. Gasps, murmurs, applause. It was a cacophony of divided minds, but amidst it all, hope surged. He felt as though he was standing on the precipice of change, everything he wanted finally within his grasp. Yet teetering dangerously close to the edge of uncertainty. As he surveyed the sea of faces. If you can't understand my truth, he told the crowd, then you don't deserve to stand in my light. With those words, he stepped off the stage, his heart racing and adrenaline coursing through him. Where would that plunge lead? He didn't know, but he was ready to find out. As he looked back at Maria, the light in her eyes pierced through the uncertainty. They were embarking on a journey that would change their lives forever. The crowd began to disperse, stories buzzing through the air. Are you ready? Maria asked, her expression both anxious and hopeful. Tom took a deep breath, clenching her hand. Ready for anything as long as it's together. But even as he said it, another voice broke through the whirlwind of thoughts. What if it costs you everything, Tom? Those words echoed in his mind as they walked away, leaving behind a storm that was still brewing. What challenges awaited them on this uncertain path? Would love truly be enough to conquer the doubts and fears looming like shadows over their future? Tom felt the heaviness in his heart transform into a permeable warmth as they walked away from the chaos. Every step felt monumental. Side by side with Maria, he knew they had just challenged the world and, more importantly, each other's fears. The piercing questions and scrutinizing eyes that had haunted his past began to blur into a distant memory. There was something freeing in this moment, together. Did we really just do that? Maria asked, disbelief intertwined with elation in her voice. Tom turned to her, vulnerability mingling with joy in his chest. Yeah, we did. And I can't imagine doing it with anyone else. There was scarcely a sound between them. The world faded, leaving a profound silence filled with an unspoken promise. As they strolled towards the nearby park, the early evening sun cast a golden glow around them. It lit up Maria's smile, transforming the weariness of the past few days into something transcendental. They found a bench, its wooden frame bumpier than Tom's polished leather armchair at home. But it felt just right, so real and uncomplicated. Much like the connection he now cradled with Maria. They sat, exchanging glances filled with the weight of their shared moment. I can't believe I faced my mother like that, Tom said, shaking his head in disbelief. I've never stood up like that in my life. And look who you did it for. Maria teased gently, her eyes sparkling. You must really be crazy about me. I am, he admitted, a playful grin spreading across his face. And I'm ready for whatever comes next, as long as we tackle it together. A shadow of doubt flickered across her expression. But what about the consequences? I mean, I'm just a maid, she muttered, a hint of worry creeping back into her voice. No, you're a phenomenal woman, and that's all that should matter, he urged, squeezing her hand. We'll face the critics together. I'll take the backlash if it means I get to choose you without fear. As twilight began to set in, they could still hear murmurs in the distance as the story unfurled through social media. Yet in that moment, their breaths synchronized effortlessly. But will they still believe us after all this? Maria whispered, her brow furrowed slightly. Tom looked deep into her eyes, willing her to see the truth he felt within. After today, they will have to. We're not just another headline. We're living proof that love can cross barriers. We showed them it's worth fighting for. Just as he finished, a group of young professionals passed by, murmuring among themselves about the unfolding scandal, yet only glancing toward them momentarily. Their whispers hardened into nods of admiration punctuated by hope. Tom felt the energy shift, awareness spreading among those present. He leaned closer to Maria, running his fingers through her hair. We can't control how people see us, but we can control how we see each other, he said softly. With sudden determination, Tom rose, pulling Maria gently with him. Let us go share this revelation with the world. Not just as a chapter but as a story, the true story of us. He offered. Maria's eyes widened, realizing the weight of his decision once again. You mean go public? Together? Yes. Let us take this one step at a time. We can host an open meeting, a way for us to share who we really are. No more hiding, he said, clarity piercing the weight of uncertainty they had navigated through. A glimmer of excitement ignited within her. Okay, she breathed, let us write our own story. As they left the park hand in hand, a newfound connection pulsed through them like electric threads of courage and love. They exchanged laughter, embracing the journey ahead. Each photograph snapped, each whispered judgment, would be met with authenticity. The night wrapped around them like a soft blanket. They ventured back to Tom's home, their sanctuary for now. Differences were nothing more than juxtaposed dreams. Past classes a mere shadow. Can you believe we're here? Tom asked as they stepped inside, the threshold offering a new beginning. After everything we did it. Yes, I can. Because I've always believed in us, Maria replied, eyes shimmering with hope. They snuggled close, both hearts racing but each pulse echoing the same rhythm of resolve. Together, they shared smiles and promised to show the world the beauty born from whispers, ridicule, and love. Moments later, as they settled in on the couch, a notification pinged on Tom's phone. It was from Jonathan. He had sent a supportive message, signaling hope from a friend who had shifted his perspective, lending strength to their resolve. Perhaps the walls of expectation would transform the doors to opportunity wide open. See? Tom said, beaming. One by one, we're changing people's hearts. And we're starting with our own, aren't we? Maria asked, her voice tight with emotion. Together, Tom affirmed, and with that, nestled deeper into their shared warmth, they could finally look ahead together, embracing whatever challenges and joyous moments awaited them as they drifted toward sleep. A sense of peace washed over them. They were ready for any storms on the horizon, knowing with certainty that true love could withstand and conquer all. This was their moment, and they would not shy away from it. This was just the beginning. Now it's your turn. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel, so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that bring you joy. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. It helps more than you can imagine. Comment your reactions and feelings about this emotional ending. I want to hear from you. And don't forget to share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait not even one more second, show your support. True fans understand the importance of lifting each other up.